Good morning, good evening, good afternoon, everyone. It's Dr. Shiva Ayyadurai. Today, we have our Thursday. Every Thursday is at 11 a.m. We do what's called a open house for truth, freedom, and health. And today's open house, we have about 80 participants. Let me bring them on that are also involved in our open house from all over the world. There are truth, freedom, and health warriors, scholars, and you can see them up on the above there. But before I go to that, what I want to let everyone know is today we're going to be talking about the swarm. And many of you know, 3 weeks ago, I did a very good systems analysis of who the swarm is and a video explaining how those in power actually want people to die young. And then I did another follow-up video to that, giving you sort of the molecular systems of that. But what I want to do today is to give you an actually live situation that's taking place today between the Food and Drug Administration essentially outlawing the sale of a very powerful nutrient. It's a relatively cheap nutrient that you can buy over the counter, that they basically outlawed this nutrient to be sold because they're saying it's a drug. And the nutrient is beta-nicotinamide mononucleotide. Let me bring up the actual FDA news story that came out. It's the FDA disallowed this about actually 3 months ago, and only now is the news hitting everyone. And let me bring that up. So here we go. So some of you may have seen it. The title of the title of the article that came out in Health News, as you can see here, let me share it here. I think we should be able to see it here. Can you guys see it, John?
Yes, sir.
Can everyone see the article or no? Let me see.
Yeah, we can.
Okay. All right. So everyone can see that, right? All right. So this article came out in the Health News journal. Several, I think it came out several. John, how come I can't see it? Can you see it? The article? John, can you see the article? Hold on, guys. Let me see this. All right, here we go.
Sorry, I couldn't unmute for some reason. But yeah, we could see it here on Zoom.
What do you see? Does it say FDA beta NMN can no longer be sold as a dietary supplement?
Yeah, we were seeing that when we were
I
sharing
want to
it.
make sure people can share that, can see that on the other mediums too. Okay, let me just check that. Yeah, so I think people should be able to see it on the other mediums because I'm sharing the Zoom call out on these other mediums, right?
Here on Zoom.
What do you see? Does it say FDA beta NMN can no longer be sold as a dietary supplement?
Yeah, we were seeing that when we were sharing it here.
Okay, so everyone should be able to see that on the other mediums, right? All right. So if you can see this, the article basically says that the FDA beta has said beta NMN can no longer be sold as a dietary supplement in the United States. So this came out June 28th, 2023. So what is this supplement? Well, as some of you may know, I talked about several, I think a couple of weeks ago, right? I talked about the fact that this supplement, John, just make sure what's showing now, just me, right?
Correct.
Okay. So, but you saw the article, right? So what the article basically said is that the FDA has ruled that beta NMN can no longer be sold as a dietary supplement. So what is beta NMN? If you go look at the second swarm video I did, I talked about the fact that government and the elites work together to pass policies that literally are killing people younger. And when I shared that, the discussion that I did for all of you was I provided everyone an actual diagram that I'm going to share again today. And that diagram is a diagram that we've shared since the beginning of our campaign. which is this diagram of, here we go, okay? It's this diagram of the life expectancy variations between the United States and the other leading, everyone can see that, John? Okay. And so that is the life expectancy of what's going on in the United States and everywhere else throughout the world, all right? And what's important to understand in that is that you will see that in that analysis, yeah, I'm going to share that right now on YouTube, okay? So people on YouTube that I want you to also see this diagram, let me show it here. Okay, here we go. Okay, so everyone should be seeing this now, YouTube, etc. So what you see in this diagram is starting in 1980 till about 2020, the life expectancy in the United States has deviated from the norm, which is a gray line of all the other industrialized nations. And this didn't occur overnight. This occurred starting in 1980. And that analysis, you can see when quote unquote COVID and the pandemic hit, it went way down because people's immune systems were shot. That's what this really shows. So in the United States, if you're an adult, your son or daughter is going to live or die sooner than you, okay? Meaning age-wise, lifespan-wise. That's what this shows. So in the swarm video that I did, which I recommend everyone go do, and by the way, to those of you listening here, please note that YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, particularly Elon Musk, shadow bans me, which means puts me in a cage. So if you're watching this video, share it, click the notify button, comment on it till we get everyone to understand this. But our campaign for president and our movement for truth, freedom, and health is focused on recognizing that you have to have freedom to be able to discuss openly without censorship. But we know that the government controls all the social media platforms now. And with that kind of censorship, you can't really do real science, nor can we find out what's good for our health. But when you look at this diagram, what you fundamentally see is that in the United States, because of the collusion of the Democrats and Republicans, the obvious establishment and the not so obvious establishment, like the Trumps and the Kennedys and all those people, that it has led to this. So what's important to understand is that this has been a series of policies. And what I'm going to share with you right now is one of those events that's taking place right now. And what is that event? Well, that event is the fact that the government and academia, and you're going to see how all this links in, have colluded together. Government, which is one part of the swarm, academia, and the elites have colluded together to make sure that you in the United States cannot have access to very specific nutrients. And that came out again in the headline article. This happened actually in April, okay? It's only coming out now. And what's interesting is a guy behind this, and this is what gets very interesting, the guy behind this is a professor at Harvard. All right? So let me explain this. So a professor at Harvard is the one who took this nutrient and he created a company that filed for an investigational new drug, which basically he's saying he wants to investigate this nutrient as a, and he wants the FDA to give him clinical approval on it, allowance on to go to clinical trials. And if he can do that, then he can say it's a drug. And when it's a drug, he would own the rights to then distribute it exclusively. Now, what's interesting in the nuance in this rule that I want everyone to share is the following. Let me stop sharing this health news one. Okay. So what's interesting about this to understand is the nuance is the following. If you discover something, some drug, the process is you typically will do test tube testing on it to validate it works, and you'll do animal testing. And then if you want to sell it as a drug, you got to go to the FDA and you got to get them what's called an allowance. It's called an IND, Investigational New Drug Allowance. And the Investigational New Drug Allowance allows you to take this thing that you think can work for some indication. So if you say, oh, I think I have, parsley, and I think it can cure cancer. In order for you to be able to say it can cure cancer, you can't say that. You can say, okay, parsley I'm selling it as a nutrient. It can be potentially anti-carcinogenic. You can sell it as, a vitamin supplement, okay? But if you want to say partially cures cancer, then you have to go through what's called a clinical trial process and get FDA allowance to do the clinical trials. And the clinical trials are typically goes the following way. You put together about 10,000 pages of documentation, and you go to the FDA and you say, hey, FDA, here's my plan to do a clinical trial with a small set of humans. If the FDA allows it, then you have then you go do the clinical trial, phase 1, phase 2, phase 3. Now, one of the subtle rulings, which is interesting, is that the day that the FDA says, yes, you can start the clinical trial, apparently, and this is what I'm doing further research on, apparently at that point, if, let's say, parsley sold as a dietary supplement for cancer, and you're saying parsley can cure cancer, then they have to remove parsley off the shelves. Okay, so let me show you. So I hope that's understood by everyone. So if you and I said, okay, here's beta, here's beta nicotinamide mononucleotide. If that can stop aging or can really affect aging, right? And then I go to the FDA and say, hey, I want a clinical trial to do this for aging. The day that they say, yes, you can start the clinical trial, then you can go to the FDA and say, hey, FDA, this is no longer a dietary supplement. You got to tell all the other people to pull it off the market. Now, who was behind this? This prick. That's what he is. He's a little fucking prick called David Sinclair. This is a guy who all the media, all the major people are promoting as this big anti-aging guy, okay? And so and I'll read you his tweet, right? So this is right off of his, let me go right to his tweet that he put up. And it shows you what a sleaze bag he is, okay? So here we go. I'm sharing you his tweet right here. And to people on the open house, let me also share you his tweet here. And here's Sinclair's tweet, okay? And I'm going to walk you through this so you understand this, okay? So what does this tweet say? It says the FDA's decision. So he put this out in December 15, 2022, because that's when the FDA decided it. And then they issued their letter in April 2023, because the FDA's decision was preceded by a letter from Metro Biotech, a company I co-founded, but do not manage or control, which means he founded, he's a shareholder though. Control means he doesn't own aggregate 51%, pointing out that the company had begun the clinical trials with a special crystalline form of NMN that is stable and made under FDA drug standards. The FDA's letter is based on the Food and Drug and Cosmetic Act, which states the term dietary supplement does not include an article authorized for investigation as a new drug. In other words, if a clinical trial of a substance has been initiated, it cannot be classified as a dietary supplement. In its actions, the FDA is in line with its own regulations, which do not allow for the authorization of substance to be classified as a dietary supplement. It has already been cleared by the FDA for clinical trials. So let me tell you what this prick has done, okay? And he thinks he's very smart, okay? He's basically a money-grubbing prick. That's what he is. And why do I say that? Because what he did was him and his lawyers took this natural supplement, NMN. By the way, if you saw that video on the swarm, what I said was there are many, many molecular pathways that are involved in slowing aging. One of them is called mitochondrial respiration, okay? Mitochondrial respiration. So mitochondrial respiration, and I do a lot of research in this area, when it's every cell in your body has mitochondria, which are literally the power plants of your cell. They take in glucose and nutrients, and they produce ATP, which powers your cell, right? No different than you put gasoline into your car starts moving. So mitochondrial respiration is critical for mitochondrial function or your cellular function. And when mitochondrial dysfunction takes place, that's when aging takes place, right? So you can read a lot of articles showing mitochondria is important. And when the mitochondria are functioning right, NAD plus is upregulated, which means you have a lot of that going on. Well, this, so this nutrient, natural occurring nutrient, NMN, right? You can get it, supports the increase of NAD+. So people have known this, okay? So Sinclair starts a company and basically takes this nutrient and applies for an IND filing with the FDA saying, I want to do clinical trials on NMN use, so he can say, yes, NMN cures aging, okay? So he can own that. So he gets the FDA to approve that to do clinical trials. And using that FDA allowance, he is now having the FDA send letters to all these supplement companies and telling them it has to be removed. The reason I found this out was a couple of weeks ago. I take NMN. I've been playing around with it. And the company I ordered from, I couldn't get it on Amazon anymore. So I said, what the hell is going on? So I started doing a little bit of snooping around. And I found out that Amazon, who are a bunch of pussies, by the way, run by that other pussy, Jeff Bezos, okay, pulled NMN, okay, because they jump when the FDA says to jump. And I'm sure Jeff Bezos is taking as much NMN as he can get, okay? So basically, elites are making sure that everyday people can't get NMN, but they can. And so I found out right here, and I'll bring this up to you, Amazon did take NMN off their shelves because they probably got a letter from the FDA. So let me show that to you. So Amazon gets a letter from the FDA, and instead of fighting it, which is what, you know, real warriors for health would do, Amazon, as you can see here, let me show you here, has taken NMN off their shelves, and that's right here, okay? So Amazon has also removed, to the Zoom audience, as well as to our social media audience, they've removed NMN off their shelf. So there you can see it right there, okay? Yeah, Jeff Bezos is a pussy, okay? That's why he's got to get roided out right now, and he had to leave his wife and go get somebody else because he's got to, this little wimp has got to prove he's some strong man. But anyway, it's a whole nother story we could do it on. But anyway, Amazon has complied when they should have fought. They should have filed a lawsuit. And more than likely, I'll have to do the dirty work and the hard work, and they'll file a lawsuit against the FDA, which I'm more than likely going to do. Because the reason this is so fucked up, and that's the only technical term I could use for this, is because this means as new longevity supplements are discovered or we know works, some asshole like Sinclair out of Harvard will go to the FDA and say, I want to get the IND allowance, and none of us will be able to get it. And only he will have be able to produce it and use it, et cetera, and sell it. Essentially monopolize a nutrient. So what is NMN? Someone's asking again. Well, again, NMN for you joining lately is NMN is beta. It's a beta form of it. Nicotinamide mononucleotide. Nicotinamide mononucleotide. Again, why is this important? Let me come back here and share with you. Why is it important? Is that this supplement boosts your NAD+ levels, which is critical for mitochondrial respiration in your body. Look, the elites are making sure we get horrible food. People can't get proper health care. The contaminants in the soil. All of this has been done for since starting in the Kennedy era, okay? And the Kennedys, the Trumps, the Bidens, all of them, and the Clintons, all of them, it's not the Democrats or the Republicans, both of them. They've made sure that people's longevity is going down. Meanwhile, they do research so they can live long. And on top of it, what I'm sharing with you today is that the academia, the elites, and the FDA, the government, all collude to make sure that you don't have access to the supplements that they'll have to live long. That's what this is about. All right. Yes, you can get it for Amazon on UK, right? But then you have to wait and to order from them. But the point is that the FDA has issued this letter, and it's essentially a monopoly move. It's a monopoly game to monopolize the natural supplements. So that's what's going on. So what you can see right here is that when it comes to the elites, the swarm, the government, the FDA, academia, all work together. okay? Not only to destroy your health, as I've shown over the last 60 years, but also to make sure that if there's something valuable for you, they're going to ban it. Think about that. And that's what they're doing. And again, if you saw this recent video with that other douchebag, Robert effing Kennedy, the guy's all roided out on steroids. And here's a guy who's talking about he's against big pharma. And I would ask all of these elites who are running for president, I think they should disclose how many pharmaceutical drugs they're taking. I would really like to know how many pharmaceutical drugs that Robert Kennedy has taken throughout his entire life and still takes. I think it's important to release that. If you're saying big pharma sucks, then release that, because on the one hand, you say big pharma sucks, but you're taking their drugs. And on the other hand, what you're doing is you're colluding with the elites to make sure that nutrients that should be good, you're making them pharmaceutical drugs. You see, that's what these people are doing. Okay. So I wanted to share this with all of you because our movement for truth, freedom, and health is the only movement on the planet which is telling people to build a bottoms up movement. And bottoms up doesn't mean top down, telling people to build a bottoms up movement. That's what Biden just said. We need to build Bidenomics. That's what he calls it, which is bottoms up economics. No, bottoms up means truly bottoms up. But to build a bottoms up movement, we have to recognize that there's a fundamental relationship with freedom, truth, and health. And you're witnessing it right there with this FDA NMN case study I'm sharing with you here, that the science is there, that NMN can support your immune, your longevity and living long, many different mitochondrial respiration. But they don't want you getting access to that, which means you, meaning us, one of us. So they're constraining the freedom on that by making sure that the FDA bans its use through a legal ruling that only the elites can afford. It takes a lot of money to get an IND allowance. You got to really work the lawyers. So that's what I wanted to share with you, that my run for president, you have someone like me who's actually a systems biologist, who's actually a scientist, actually an engineer, who can explain this to you, okay? Doofus Kennedy and Doofus Trump and Doofus Biden and Doofus DeSantis, all these people are essentially tools. And Kennedy literally steals our stuff, repurposes it. That's the level of moron he is. And I also want everyone, we'll do a whole video on this, to really look at the entire Kennedy family. Their entire history is all PR. You look at from John Kennedy, who basically, did a biggest blunder with this PTO 109 boat. And then his father reframed it as though he was some great hero. You should really go study this stuff. And then the other brother, Ted Kennedy, who killed a woman. And then you have this other fool, Bobby Kennedy. And you can see Trump and Kennedy are coming together. And the reason they're coming together is because they're both elites. And they both want to make sure they're aware of our movement. They know that I've been exposing Trump and Kennedy, that they're coming together to manipulate working people, stealing our actual words, but they don't do the deeds, to sucker people back into the elites. But what you're seeing right now in front of you is that the elites do not want you to live long. They want you to die young. How are they doing that? They're passing all of these systemic policies that destroy your health. And today, what I'm sharing with you here is they're actually colluding to make sure that food products, good things that can enhance your health, are actually going to be banned. And again, let me have you guys recognize that this guy, David Sinclair, who all the media promotes as a longevity expert, and I've been doing research on this long before this fool, okay? He is coming in on the back end with the support of Harvard Medical School and all the elites, and trying to corner the market on dietary supplements, which we know work. He's a total fucking scumbag. And all the elites who supported this, because they will be able to get it. Remember, by the way, any academic gets the best healthcare. They don't even have to pay for their healthcare. All the elites get the best healthcare. They'll be able to afford that as a part of their drug program. But you and I and others who actually are bottoms up and we have to work hard will have to pay a lot to get the supplements. Okay. So there are going to be many, we are discovering amazing supplements that will work. And some fool will take our supplement and then go try to do a clinical trial and then shut down actual supplements. This is why all of you hearing out there must share this video. must recognize, we're running. Let me go to our open house. We have an open house going on right now. Our Truth, Freedom, and Health open house. We do it every Thursdays at 11 a.m. We have about 80 people on. You can go to vashiva.com/orientation to sign up. This evening, I'll be doing a town hall. You can go to shivaforpresident.com/town hall to join us. But we have to build a movement. Those in power do not want you to live long. Get it clear. They want to kill you fast. Okay? Trump wants to kill you sooner. Kennedy wants to kill you sooner because they're just agents of the elites. If you think the elites want you to live long, you have to have your head checked. I want you to live long. That's why I shared this kind of content. I was the one in 2020 who came out against lockdowns. Stupid moron Kennedy was promoting lockdowns. And he was saying it was good for climate change. Trump supported lockdowns. I was the only presidential candidate who in 2020 saved millions of people's lives against lockdowns and gave people protocols. So all of you out there, it's time that you fight for yourself, join this movement for truth, freedom, health. It's time that you recognize that my running for president is for the first time in a long, long time in American history, you have someone who actually cares about you. Because when you fundamentally step back and you look at that graph that I shared with you, and I'll share that again, that graph that I shared with you over here, you will recognize that you as an adult, if you don't care about yourself, then I hope you damn well care about your kids, because those in power do not want your kids to live as long as you've been living. And that's the end reality of out of this. And then this graph shares it all right here. This is a reality. So this is where we're headed. And I'm the only one raising a massive red flag on this. And if Kennedy steals my stuff and does it, he's only doing that because to try to break people away from the real movement for truth, freedom, and health. That's us. All right. So all of you listening out there, here's what you need to do. Go to shivaforpresident.com, become a volunteer and donate. Go to truthfreedomhealth.com and become a warrior scholar so you understand the reality of how we can fight. And it's not about me leading this. It's about you learning how to become warriors and scholars. We've put together the program, how you can understand how the elites manipulate you, how we got here. You can recognize we have an entire community of people now, nearly 400,000 people in 102 countries who are part of this bottoms-up movement. But most importantly, you're going to learn that those in power, the obvious establishment and the not so obvious establishment, do not give a damn about you. And that is the biggest thing to overcome, because many of you can easily become lazy and say, oh, okay, I'm just going to go vote for Trump. He's saying, by and large, I think good things, or Kennedy. And I'm going to choose for the lesser of two evils. You do not have to choose for evil. You can choose for truth, freedom, and health. And so go to shivaforpresident.com or go to truthfreedomhealth.com and learn the content that I put together. That's a very powerful innovation. All right, everyone, everyone on the open house, stay on. But again, I wish all of you well. We'll be back at 8 p.m. today doing another broadcast. But thank you. Be well. As I say, be the light. Thank you.